The Malaysian Grand Prix spells sky-high temperatures and the survival of the fastest and the fittest. Welcome to the highlights from the Sepang F1 circuit, Kuala Lumpur. Hello there. First of all, a weather check for you. Here in the paddock, we've hit temperatures of 37 degrees this weekend. Out there on the track, it's been up in the mid-50s, around 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Enough even to make the ice-cool Michael Schumacher go red in the face. After their magnificent Melbourne, Ferrari are on pole here once again, but there's an unexpected dash of green alongside. The turgid qualifying procedure is sadly still with us. In the first session, Fernando Alonso's Renault suggests the Spaniard could repeat last year's record here, when at 21 he was the youngest ever pole sitter. When the proper stuff starts, BAR's Takuma Sato catches the bumps at 130 miles an hour around turn 11. The Japanese driver beached. That means the back row. Williams, though, are in decent shape for the Grand Prix. Montoya on the second row, despite a mistake in the final section. Jenson Button is the best British driver. Very quick through the high-speed second sector, but his BAR oversteers, so he starts sixth. A magnificent lap from Mark Webber in the Jaguar. Blisteringly quick through the middle sector, the Australian into the 133s and up front. It's his and Jaguar's best ever qualifying, confirming Webber's status as a pilot of the highest quality. But Michael Schumacher goes one better. He goes quickest through the first two sectors. He calls it a mind-blowing lap, an improvement of an incredible 4 seconds on last year's pole. And then poor Alonso blows it when he makes a mistake under braking and loses the back end of the Renault. He's got to battle through the grid. So it's Ferrari red and Jaguar green up top. Webber splits Michael Schumacher and Barrichello. Montoya makes it a South American second row. Raikkonen, last year's Malaysian winner, he starts fifth alongside Button. Then Ralf Schumacher and Trulli. Coulthard ninth, but the McLarens have found some speed, and so have the Toyotas. Then the Saubers, clean in the second Jaguar. Panis, Heidfeld did really well in that Jordan. Then the Minardis. Pantano had to switch to the spare Jordan. That means a new engine and demotion, but the Italians ahead of that racy back row, Alonso and Sato. Enjoy the very best of the Malaysian Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Huge tension in the pits then, the lights going on. When they all go off, we'll be racing around Sepang. 56 laps begin. No! Oh, Webber's not going anywhere, he's almost stalled. Once again, Webber's starts let him down. The two Ferraris in line astern, Montoya third, Raikkonen fourth, and Trulli up to fifth. Jenson Button in the mix. Watch out, Coulthard on the right. Button goes round the outside of Trulli. This is where the accidents have happened the last couple of years. But this year, no problems, and Ferrari have control at the front at the moment. But Montoya already up to third.
Yes, poor old Mark Webber. He just did not get away at all. Looked like the clutch was slipping and didn't get it up and running until he got into second gear. And look, then Jarno Trulli coming through already. So Trulli making ground. Both Renaults starting very quickly, and that's Trulli has passed Button already then. And Michael Schumacher leads Barrichello, Montoya, Raikkonen, now Trulli, Button, Coulthard up to 7.
And poor old Mark Webber's got it all to do. Here at the back, you can see the two Minardis having a squabble. And there's a Sauber in the mix as well there, but that was a disaster for Mark Webber. Up the inside comes Webber, though. One of the Saubers he's making a move on, so he's trying to make up for the lost ground at the start.
Yeah, you somehow knew it. He's been talking about it all weekend. If I can get this car off the line. Raikkonen had a big sideways moment coming out of turn 11. The man who's currently in 4th place, but kept it all together. There, it is very, very slippery on the exit of 10, and that is the net result. We're seeing lots of cars struggling for rear grip, under traction, but the leaders safely through.
Well, the Klein in the second Jaguar also had problems. A puff of smoke there into the final corner, but so we think Jaguar's start situation is a bit of a mess. And you can see that the BAR as well making its way through the field. Sato down in 16th place, had to start from the back of the grid. Michael Schumacher leads by 2 seconds on the first lap. Montoya is third, Barrichello second. 4th, Raikkonen, 5th, Trulli, 6th, Button. Here comes Sato, trying to make a move on Felipe Massa, who was very, very dynamic yesterday in qualifying, outperforming Fisichella once again.
Alonso already up to 10th place then from the back row of the grid. 19 cars on the grid. Pantano, and look, Barrichello out-braking himself, running wide, lost a lot of time. He'll lose another position to Raikkonen, surely, and that is rain in the background there. It's raining heavily. What about that 5% chance of rain? It seems like it's absolutely hit home, and here we go then. And Michael Schumacher now under pressure from Montoya. This is exactly the situation where the Michelins work best.
Think back to Indianapolis last year. Michael Schumacher had the whole race bought and paid for, except these conditions where it's just beginning to get a glisten on the top of the surface of the track.
And Raikkonen did pass Barrichello and he's up to third. Barrichello under big pressure. He's on the harder tyre, remember, Barrichello. Michael elected for the softer Bridgestone, which will be paying dividends right now. And all of a sudden, he's just stretching his legs a bit to Montoya, too. So Michael Schumacher leads from Montoya, Raikkonen, and there's a McLaren team ready for a pit stop. There then is the gaggle for third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth.
And Trulli past Button there. They're still having a terrific scrap, these two, right from the start. They've been battling right into turn one. They were side by side. They've passed and now repassed each other. Look at the wiggles, though. You see the rain in the foreground. These are very difficult conditions to drive in now.
Well, this is absolutely surprising, the paddock. I didn't speak to anybody that expected rain to seriously affect this Grand Prix. And Button coming back then at Trulli, and he'll do well to get around there, and he has done
Webber and Ralph
well too.
side by side, Martin, sorry to interrupt you, and Ralph up onto the grass.
Yeah, Webber just muscled Ralph Schumacher completely off the road, and that allowed Alonso to pass at the same time. Tremendous stuff going on in the midfield.
And get this, Rubens Barrichello is lapping 5 seconds slower than his teammate Michael Schumacher in the lead. Schumacher's doing 1:40s. The pace we expected was around 1:36, so all of the cars are about 4 seconds slower than they would be in a normal dry condition. But Barrichello is a further 5 seconds a lap slower. Here's the front three. Michael Schumacher, Montoya, Raikkonen separated by 3.5 seconds, just under 4 seconds now.
Yes, it seems as if it's really just 2 or 3 corners, James, that's really slippery. And look in the background there as Alonso, I think it is, yes. No, it's
Alonso.
It is Alonso.
He's made his way up from the back of the grid to challenge and pass Mark Webber for 8th place.
That's a good run down there too. He must have tremendous traction off the last corner because he tends not to have good late straight line speed. So the next man in Alonso's sights then is David Coulthard, who's currently running 7th.
Michael Schumacher on lap 4 has a 1.5 second advantage over Juan Montoya. Raikkonen is third now, 5 seconds behind. Raikkonen, his last lap, a couple of seconds slower than Schumacher's. And Martin, here's the start again. That Jaguar not going anywhere.
It just looks like a slipping clutch to me as everybody starts to make their way around the 2 Ferraris. A perfect getaway. Montoya safely into 3rd place. And everybody's super cautious there. Will remember well all of the incidents they've had here in the last few years. And look, this is from on board Alonso, who was last on the grid, and just demonstrates how good that car gets away. It's like playing a video game, isn't it? As he zooms down to the first corner, and, ooh, and that is a Webber desperately trying to make up for not getting off the line. Good stuff. And that then is Fisichella getting muscled off the racetrack too. And this is a replay then of Pantano spinning the Jordan. Fisichella dropped down to 17 with that little off-track excursion.
Here comes Ralph Schumacher up the inside of Webber. No love lost here. A little tag, Webber loses ground, and Ralph is through.
I don't know whether they actually touched. They did. He's got a puncture. That he tagged the rear wheel there of Mark Webber, and he's punctured his right rear. He must make a pit stop, and he's got the best part of 5 kilometers to go. Let's hope it doesn't delaminate and smash his rear wing and bodywork to pieces. Ralph Schumacher, I believe, just punctured the right rear there of Mark Webber.
This is lap 5. Let's have another look at that. That's the BAR and the Jaguar. That's probably Takuma Sato, I think. Yes, it is indeed.
Yep.
He went off yesterday in qualifying and went right into the sand trap and jeopardized his lap. Had to go start from the back of the grid. So once again, a very eventful weekend for Takuma Sato. Off the track quite a lot. Let's focus though on this great scrap. Coulthard, Alonso and Ralph Schumacher. Webber's no longer part of the picture, and you have to say hats off to Felipe Massa in the Sauber, who's keeping in touch with these guys. A very impressive weekend for Felipe Massa. Out-qualified his teammate Fisichella again, and he's in touch with the big guys.
Yes, Michael Schumacher lapped 1.3 seconds faster than anybody else, as you're looking at now the tyre trying to come off the rim of the Jaguar of Mark Webber, and he was really making some ground there, wasn't he? What a shame.
as into the pits comes Mark Webber, and Ted Kravitz is down there.
The good news about Mark Webber is that I didn't see any damage to the bodywork. They're taking the opportunity to put in a bit of fuel. Poor guy, he hasn't said anything on the radio apart from acknowledging that he's coming in for a stop, but he thinks that the clutch just failed. The anti-stall came in, and then he was just slow off the grid. As for Ralf Schumacher, well, I wouldn't doubt that they'll be having words later.
Michael Schumacher's lead is up to 4.2 seconds now. He's lapping in a 1:34.8. He's blown away the lap record by 1.6 seconds. Such is the pace this afternoon. It's a frantic pace now. Coulthard's just set the fastest first sector time, and clearly beginning to find the McLaren. It's Michael Schumacher then from Juan Pablo Montoya's 4.2 seconds behind. Raikkonen, Barrichello fourth, Button fifth. Trulli 6th, Coulthard 7th, Alonso 8th, Ralf Schumacher 9th, and Massa keeping up well in 10th.
Lap 9 of the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang, and we've got a penalty for car number 14, Mark Webber, for speeding in the pit lane. He had to make an early stop after Ralf Schumacher tagged his rear tyres and punctured it, and he came in for tyres, and obviously on his way out he has gone too fast. There's the confirmation up on your screen. So Webber having to do a drive-through penalty. It's the first one we've seen so far this season. They have a different range of penalties now this year. There's certainly some offences will be meted out afterwards. We've had Fisichella in the pits. He was the first scheduled stopper. Here's Michael Schumacher on lap 9, the first of the big guys to come in for a stop. Just confirming what Martin was saying yesterday, that they had to go with a lighter fuel load to guarantee themselves pole position. Montoya, though, has been holding on much better than qualifying might have suggested, and was only just over 2 seconds behind Schumacher when Schumacher made his pit stop. So this is up to Montoya now. This is where he has to really push hard.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Michael Schumacher went lighter and went softer on the compound of the tyres, and he's, mind you, also in as Coulthard, Alonso and Massa from 8th, 9th and 10th. There is Alonso, the man who started on the back of the grid, went quickly and immediately to P10, but pretty much stagnated in 8th place behind Coulthard and Barrichello in this lap too. So Ted, are you down there?
Excellent work by McLaren. They got him out. They got David Coulthard out ahead of Fernando Alonso. They were very tight anyway. Alonso might have nicked it there, but McLaren have kept station. Good job.
Yes, they've had to practice this pit in because it's quite clever in that final turn. You take an entirely different line into the last corner when you're pitting, and you can gain, you can almost ignore the corner and gain yourself a second or two on the way into the pits and minimize the pain of stopping here. So that clearly both Coulthard and Alonso got that right, and the teams got them out in their respective positions. Michael Schumacher has rejoined, but Montoya then leads the Grand Prix and was quite nicely hanging on, wasn't he?
He certainly was. His last lap for 1:36.389. These are the laps he needs to make count if he's to retain the lead when he makes his own pit stop. They're out of sequence now, him and Michael Schumacher. And coming through, you can see Montoya leading. There is Ralf Schumacher. There is Michael Schumacher. Then he's fed in behind his brother into 7th place. And there's Rubens Barrichello making his stop, the second of the McLarens, Kimi Raikkonen in 2, and so is Jarno Trulli on lap 11. Montoya still out on track though, and his last lap was good, a 1:36.1, but not as fast as Michael Schumacher was doing before the stops.
That's very good news. Montoya then had about 2/10 at least more fuel on board as well, and was managing to keep Schumacher in. And look at that then, Trulli getting out ahead of Barrichello. That's a position reversal then. Renault managing to get Trulli out in front of the Ferrari.
It's just not quite happened for Rubens Barrichello this weekend at any stage, has it? He's taken a tactical decision to run with the harder Bridgestone tyre and run a little bit more fuel than his teammate, and he paid the price with that in qualifying down in 3rd place with Michael Schumacher on pole. And here again today, he's lost out in the pit stop battle. He is down now to 5th place. Well, the other man going very well at the moment is Jenson Button. We haven't seen him, but he's in 2nd place, just under 8 seconds behind Montoya. And once again, BAR showing that their jump in performance over the winter is no mirage. They were been quick in Australia. They're quick here, particularly in race conditions, it seems. Button lapping in the mid-135s. He's half a second a lap faster than Montoya at the moment. Jenson Button now is definitely coming into contention in this race.
Ralph in from 6th place. They're going to add some front wing. He's been having a bit of graining on the tyres, so they're putting a bit of front wing, bit more front downforce. Good stop, though.
Montoya is 16.9 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, who he was racing with. And we think, Ted tells us, he thinks he's coming in this lap. If he bolts down the pit lane, we'll know for sure, and indeed he does. And that is not enough time then to put him in front of Michael Schumacher when he comes out. So that's interesting. I don't think Montoya's got enough in the bag to lead the Grand Prix. In fact, he hasn't had particularly quick laps. No. Button pits too. Button in the pits from second.
If he's not careful, Montoya, he'll feed back out behind his teammate Ralf Schumacher as well. So the last couple of laps, not fantastic. That was a very quick stop, though, for Montoya. 6.3 seconds by the Williams team. There is BAR as well, servicing Button. Where will he feed back into the equation? Michael Schumacher is, we haven't seen him, but I think he must have crossed the start-finish line to retain the lead. There is Jenson Button. And Montoya was 2 seconds behind Michael Schumacher before this round of pit stops. Oh, almost a clash there between Trulli and Button. But these two have been stuck together all Grand Prix. Now they're together again. Trulli resists. Button has to give way. No choice there, otherwise he'd lose part of his front wing. And once again, these two join battle on the racetrack.
Good stuff from Trulli. I thought he had overcooked it, but he mugged Button. Jenson really didn't have anywhere to place his car and was a little bit caught by surprise as he exited the pits. Your mirrors are looking pretty much down the pit lane rather than down the racetrack, and you can have some nasty surprises, particularly as the closing speed is something like 100 miles an hour between you exiting the pits and those drivers flat chat coming down the pit straight on the track itself.
We're riding on board with Jarno Trulli then. In the Renault, you can see just making a few little adjustments with his left hand on the steering wheel. 18,000 RPM available. He's just got the revs turned down a little bit at the moment, it looks like to me, because he's going into the pits. Yeah, probably why. That was what I was telling you about earlier on, in terms of you can really gain some time by steaming through the last corner, knowing you're not anticipating making the apex. Ted is down there.
Yeah, and this is Renault and Pat Simmons trying to do one over on McLaren. Jarno Trulli comes in, I believe it's about 2 laps early. Let's see how much fuel he puts in the car. Should be about 7 seconds. We're talking 46, 47 kilograms. It's quite long. There he goes. What's the time? 8 seconds dead. Let's see what happens when Raikkonen comes in.
Plenty of fuel went in there then, as Ted pointed out, and Trulli will get out into some reasonably clear air as well, which is good news for him. So that could work out. Now he's got to sprint, he's got to go for it, and we don't always see Jarno Trulli doing that, but this is one of his days. Today he's racing well. Sometimes we see him absolutely out there at sea somewhere, but if Trulli can sprint hard now, he has a great chance of passing Raikkonen for 3rd place. We'll watch his lap times.
We believe his next pit stop's going to be in 15 or 16 laps time, depending on how much fuel he still had left in the car. He put just under 50 kilos of fuel in at that stop. And we're looking at a nice aerial shot of the Ferrari then. Michael Schumacher leading this Grand Prix, just under 4 seconds from Montoya. Raikkonen 3rd, now over 10 seconds behind the Ferrari. Button is 4th, 5th is Trulli, 6th is Barrichello. Is Schumacher going to pit this time round? He was one of the earliest to pit first time round. No, doesn't look like it.
And I don't see McLaren out in the pit lane, out of the commentary box window here, James, responding to that move by Renault. They've obviously decided to go to their full quota of fuel for this, the second phase of the race out of the 4 with the 3-stopper we're expecting this afternoon.
Well, let's just analyse what happened after that first round of pit stops, Martin. We saw Michael Schumacher initially quite slow, but we know he's on the softer Bridgestone tyre. Do you think it was just that intelligence, that racing brain of Schumacher's, knowing he didn't want to monster the tyres too much in the early stages because he needed them for the whole duration of his stint, whereas Montoya, perhaps in his eagerness, has over-egged his tyres in the early stages of this stint?
Now, I did hear that those softer Bridgestones were a bit of a gamble to some extent for Michael, and that they did fade away after 3 laps, grained up, and then came back in a longer run later. So it looks as if that's exactly what's happened. He was struggling in the beginning, and now they're really coming to him. Maybe as the rubber's wearing down a bit, there's less rubber moving around. They tend to run a little bit cooler, and it seems then that the tyre comes into a very nice zone. All of the people in the grandstand in front of me, and look, this is then Alonso and David Coulthard for position into the corner for 7th then, and 6th rather, as that Alonso's taken over. The crowd are on their feet in the grandstands. They saw that one coming up.
Well, now we'll be able to see whether this Renault is indeed faster than the McLaren, as we were suspecting it might be. Can Alonso put some daylight between himself and the McLaren of David Coulthard, who pushes as hard as anybody in Formula One in a race condition? He really is a superb racing driver, Coulthard, but he's only limited by his machinery. Let's see what he can do.
I think he's got a problem. He's lapping now in the 137s and quickly fading away from the back of Alonso there. So, because he was a full second clear, so something happened in that last lap and enabled Alonso to get right with him. We're on board with Coulthard. Can we see or hear anything? On all 10 cylinders at the moment. There's your race leader, Michael Schumacher, by 6.3 seconds it was. And now it's 7.4. That's how long it's going to take Montoya, in your view there, to get into the turn one that Michael's already passed through. Raikkonen's third. Let's see, he's done a 1:36.1, and we'll wait for Trulli's time again. But at the moment, Trulli's just about matching Raikkonen. It'll be very equal when Raikkonen makes his second stop. Alonso in, Coulthard in. So at the moment, Coulthard then, no smoke, nothing coming out of it. Maybe he got wrong-footed somewhere or made a mistake. This is a straight race between the two teams then as to who can get their man on the racetrack first. Coulthard having just lost out to the young Spaniard before they came in. Coulthard's away, and they're doing a longer fill on the Renault, a very long fill, as they did with Jarno Trulli. Is this smart work from the Renault team to stretch this phase of the Grand Prix? Coulthard then back in front.
Well, what do we know about this Renault? We know that it's very, very quick on long runs. We also know that it's the most gentle on its tyres of all of the Michelin runners. Clearly, Pat Simmons, who was for a couple of years back in the mid-90s the engineer of Michael Schumacher and saw him to 2 World Championships with the Benetton team. He's the tactical brain on the wall at Renault, and he clearly feels that his 2 cars can go an awful long way and keep the pace up with the fuel without destroying the tyres. And it's a very big tactical gamble, because there's an awful lot of cars who are very competitive, turning the same sort of lap times this afternoon. Really, all of the top 9 cars are as fast as each other, with possibly the Ferrari a little bit quicker at the front of Michael Schumacher. So it's a big gamble by Simmons. Let's see if it works for him, as into the pits comes Kimi Raikkonen from 3rd place. Jenson Button now takes over 3rd place from him.
Yes, this is quite crucial then for McLaren, and Ted is down there.
Well, this is the battle with Jarno Trulli, as you remember. Now, David Coulthard added 2 holes of front wing on his stop. Nothing for Kimi Raikkonen. They're very slow getting the hose up. Just a bit of a hesitation, but that might make the difference.
Mark Webber off the track. Looks like he's stuck in the gravel while Ted was talking. And a really horrible afternoon for Mark Webber after the joy of yesterday. There's the scrap between the 2 Renaults, and there is Trulli. He is behind Raikkonen. He rejoins behind Raikkonen. No great surprise there, because Raikkonen was ahead of him on the racetrack going into these stops. Jenson Button, though, is certainly gained from that. He is ahead of the McLaren now.
So the early stop then for Trulli didn't work, but because he had a long run, he's got a longer run here, may pay for him in this stage. Louise has some news about Mark Webber, who you're watching spinning off the racetrack.
Well, I'm just wondering if that was a bit of frustration on Mark Webber's part. You mentioned earlier on that his times had slowed down quite a lot. The team were worried. They thought he might have a problem. He'd done that long lap on a flat tyre. But in fact, he radioed in to say, no, the car was fine. He was just getting a lot of blue flags, having to move out of the way. He was then stuck behind Jean-Marie Bruni, who he just got past. His lap times were picking up. He just done his quickest sector of the race. And as I say, he's then spun off.
Well, here comes the battle for the lead then. Michael Schumacher is in, and we saw Juan Montoya in on the same lap as well. That's an early stop by Schumacher. They took on very different amounts of fuel, these 2, so slightly surprising they should pit on the same lap, but they rejoin at the same time, and it's The length of time it takes to get out of the pits is the difference between them. It was 9 seconds before this pit stop. Let's see what it's done for Montoya at the end of this lap. We'll see what the gap is between them.
Yes, and Jenson Button, you can see just coming out of the pit lane, also chose that moment for his second stop of the afternoon. But Michael Schumacher had stretched it, as you said, to 9.3. Button feeds in front of Kimi Raikkonen then. Raikkonen's had his second stop, and that is very significant. That is for position.
Not just for position, for podium. The elusive podium that Jenson Button has failed so far to get. In his 67 Grand Prix, he's come close on several occasions, not least here. If you remember a couple of years ago in the Renault, he was almost going to get a podium, and then on the last lap, he lost 2 places. Last year, he was competitive here again with BAR, and he is currently in 3rd place, having made the same number of stops as the 2 cars in front of him.
Well, we didn't see it on screen, but we heard Ted talking about it. Raikkonen was slow getting away from a normal pit stop, and that's allowed Jenson Button up into 3rd place.
Well, another superb drive then by young Jenson Button. Had a very relaxing holiday in Koh Samui in Thailand. After the Australian Grand Prix, arrived here looking super relaxed and very calm, and really up for the fight. He really is enjoying himself as team leader at BAR now. An awful lot of people in the paddock trying to put him in a Williams next year, but he's saying, hey, I'm not going anywhere if it carries on. BAR carries on making this kind of progress. You know, we're racing Williams for position. At the moment, he's in front of one Williams and behind the Williams of Montoya.
Yeah. It's a net 3rd place, of course, because some drivers have yet to stop for their for the second time this afternoon, including the current race leader, Rubens Barrichello. He's yet to stop, and so Button is not fully in that 3rd place yet, but he will be very shortly when it all shakes out after they've all stopped for the second time.
Absolutely. So 29 laps remaining, almost half distance here. This 56-lap race, and that is the order. Rubens Barrichello only made 1 stop this afternoon, just a couple of seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. We haven't yet seen what kind of lap times Schumacher's doing since that pit stop, but certainly Montoya was 0.3 of a second faster on his outlap. That's twice now coming out of the pits that Montoya has been quicker than the reigning world champion, who likes to think he specialises really in being the man of the outlap. Someone's blown though. Is that one of the Williams? I think it might be Ralf Schumacher. Yellow helmet certainly would, yes it is. Ralf Schumacher then, the first major engine failure for BMW Williams in a Grand Prix this season, and what frustration for him.
Well, that's a rare occurrence these days, and Louise is with Mark Webber.
Yeah, with a slightly frustrated Mark Webber. I mean, if it could go wrong today, it did, didn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Very difficult to get the car away, and then Ralph drove into the back of me, gave me a puncher, because he was pissed off that I passed him. So, and then I got a drive-through penalty, and then I spun.
I was speculating that maybe you were pushing hard. I know you've been frustrated, stuck behind back markers. Is that what caused you to spin, trying to get back on the pace?
No, I had a lot of rear tyre wear, so the car was quite difficult in braking. So, but it's my fault. I got to drive to those conditions, so unfortunate for the team. But we'll be back. We'll keep learning.
Bad luck.
Significant pit stops going on, and Barrichello, I think, has just got ahead, and we're seeing a replay then of Ralf Schumacher. Very rare occurrence under these new regulations of a blown-up engine, and we're on board with Massa, who's trying to lap a Minardi, going around the outside and giving it, what are you up to?
Into the pits, though, comes the man who can challenge Michael Schumacher for the race win today. This will be the 3rd and final stop for Juan Montoya. For the first time in this race, he's coming in before Schumacher. Let's have a look how quickly the Williams boys do it.
Yes, remembering he was carrying about 0.2 of a second per lap more fuel in the first stages of the Grand Prix. And Louise is down with his teammate, Ralf Schumacher.
I am indeed, Martin. A rare engine failure, I understand, Ralph. Whatever the cause, the end result is the same for you. No points in a frustrating afternoon.
Well, it was. I mean, the whole weekend went pretty well, even in qualifying. I missed a couple of turns, and then the start, I said, was reasonable. I had a problem with traffic, so I couldn't do anything with it. And then I touched Webber, and I think after that, maybe something broke on my car. I had an incredible understeer. Couldn't go anywhere. I mean, especially the second sector, as I'm sure you saw, was pretty understeery, and that's why I couldn't do anything.
Just tell us about that fight with Webber. It looked like a pretty tough battle. Was it fun?
Yeah, I mean, Mark was pretty aggressive today, and I guess, you know, it's coming from his frustrating start, I don't know. But, you know, we both tried it. I tried to avoid a collision, but Mark didn't give me any space, and that's when it happened.
Thanks, Ralph.
Well, the stewards haven't chosen to pull anybody in for that incident. I think you'd have to put it down to a racing situation. I think any of them were at fault. Mark was defending his piece of tarmac, and Ralph was trying to push him hard as Michael Schumacher then pits for the third time. He had a 7.6 second lead from Montoya, and Montoya is still on his out lap, so Ferrari have responded to that early stop by Williams, and at the moment it looks good. Plenty of fuel going in, a pretty average and normal stop then for a three-stopper. Button pits too. Button pits from third place.
Remember what I said, though, about Montoya staying within touch of Michael Schumacher. There he is at the very top of your screens, Juan Montoya, as Schumacher feeds into traffic, which will be some relief to him to see one or two cars between himself and Juan Montoya that Montoya has to pass before he can even think about attacking the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. But it's in these early laps of the stint where Montoya is so strong.
Raikkonen pitting too, as is Jarno Trulli. One of the cars that Montoya's got to pass is Michael's teammate, Rubens Barrichello too. In fact, there then is Montoya, so he is going to have to push supremely hard in this final part of the Grand Prix. Ted.
Raikkonen was slow getting away after that pit stop, but the big news from down here at Renault, Martin, Jarno Trulli did not change his front tyres. There was a change of rears only. I mean, we know how good, you know, this Renault is on its tyres, but wow, I'll be amazed if they can last all these laps in this heat.
Well, we'll find out. His car did seem well balanced. It was Alonso's car that had the horrible understeer, which gives you a much higher wear rate as the tyres scrub sideways across the racetrack. But Trulli has been the faster Renault driver this afternoon, no doubt about it. And Raikkonen then slowing. Raikkonen in the McLaren, and smoke coming out of the back. He was in third place, having just stopped Raikkonen out of the Grand Prix.
Laps to go in the Malaysian Grand Prix from Sepang, just south of Kuala Lumpur. It's 34 degrees hot in the air temperature, 43 the track temperature. Really sweltering day, and frustrated in the cockpit of the Williams of Juan Montoya. Yeah, definitely after the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello has been holding him up for the last 2 laps. The tactics have worked out such that Montoya, when he made his stop, came out behind Rubens Barrichello, who's been playing a holding role, really, for Michael Schumacher. The gap was under 5 seconds before this happened, and now it's gone out to 9.1 seconds to Juan Montoya. But I think Barrichello is about to make his third pit stop of the afternoon. There he goes into the pit lane. That means Montoya's got clear air, but he's also got nearly 10 seconds to make up with just 12 laps of this Grand Prix in which to do it, and that probably means it's advantage Michael Schumacher. So a critical role at a critical time played by Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, I think they were also in some traffic too, which cost them both time, but surely Rubens was not in any particular hurry with his teammate's main contender locked in behind him. The way the traffic played out, Schumacher's lead 9.6 seconds. Where will Barrichello feed back in? It's at least behind Trulli, isn't it? Who's that just gone through? No, it's a Minardi, isn't it? So we'll have to wait and see where he fed back in. We can't tell from this picture.
That looks like, is it a Toyota going slowly?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
It's Panis, I believe. There's D'Amato at the bottom of frame. And here's the BAR going through the shot. Yeah, that is indeed Olivier Panis, possibly just getting out of the way of... no, he's coming into the pits.
The Toyotas are 10th and 11th as Panis pits. So Michael Schumacher then 9.3 ahead. Button third, Barrichello fourth, Trulli fifth, Coulthard sixth.
Yeah, Panis coming into the pit lane. Alonso is 7th. Oh, it's a drive-through penalty. Is it? No, it's not a drive-through penalty. A team obviously weren't ready for it. There's nothing on the notice from race control to say that he had a drive-through penalty, so a bit of a weird moment there for the Toyota of Olivier Panis. With 10 laps to go in this 56-lap Grand Prix, and Montoya has not given up yet.
Michael Schumacher then in your picture, 9.9 seconds clear, has, as he has had all afternoon, just about got the measure of Juan Pablo Montoya in second. Button in third, but as James pointed out, at the pace that they're doing, Button will come under pressure from fourth place man Barrichello before the end of the Grand Prix.
And talk about kicking a man when he's down. There's now a drive-through time penalty for car 17 for speeding in the pit lane. Who was that? Olivier Panis.
Has Button still got the measure of third? Barrichello now just 7.2 behind him, and no other really close battles on the racetrack of significance. It's just a question of Barrichello in the second Ferrari chasing Jenson Button down. It's quite a gap though, still 7.2. But you have to say once again, James, we've lost a McLaren, we've lost a Williams through retirements, Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. We haven't lost a Ferrari. They do seem peerless in their reliability, which under the current regulations in Formula One, reliability is everything, particularly when it comes to point scoring. Remember, Michael Schumacher had, I think, 8 points after 3 Grand Prix last year. He's going to go home this afternoon, it looks like, with 20 already from just the 2.
Yep, car off track there. Looks like Bruni in the Minardi Cosworth, who is currently down in 15th place. Here's Jarno Trulli, mesmerisingly quick in the first half of the Grand Prix. Renault played a bit of a gamble with the strategy in the pit stops, fueled Trulli quite heavily, and he's ended up more or less where he started, in 5th place behind Rubens Barrichello, but quite a long way behind Barrichello. He's 20 seconds now behind the Ferrari. David Coulthard, a solid day for him at the office. 6th is worth 3 points for him, but he's a full minute behind the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher after 52 laps, and that's over a second a lap again for the McLaren. His teammate Kimi Raikkonen we saw retiring with what looked like an engine failure. We've yet to have that confirmed by Mercedes-Benz. And Alonso and Sato, the last of the 2 points paying positions, both men starting from the back of the grid this afternoon.
Tell you what, Trulli's neck is going. If you watch him, he's struggling to keep it where it needs to be in the fast corners. No! That is Sato, isn't it? It's Sato's BAR Honda, was in 8th, hasn't got the reflective tape on the camera, so it's not Button. And Sato out of the Grand Prix then on lap 54 of 56.
And the alarm bells will be ringing at Jenson Buttonville. Ted Kravitz is down in the BAR garage. Ted, what can you tell us?
Well, I've just left that garage, James. I left it because they were all so calm. The pit crew amazingly calm. I'll go back, find out what's happened to Takuma Sato. They were amazingly calm. The guy who was most nervous, let me tell you, was John Button, Jenson's dad. BAR, of course, have had podiums before. The last was Germany 2001 with Jacques Villeneuve. They've only got a few laps to go. Can the car hold out?
First, we have the small matter of Michael Schumacher to come through and collect win number 72 of his extraordinary Grand Prix career. We'll soon be celebrating 200 Grand Prix starts for Michael Schumacher in 4 races' time, and he's won 72 of them. Absolutely remarkable record, and it's his 3rd win in Malaysia coming up. He's backing right off, keeping us all waiting. Good crowd here today in Malaysia. They've seen a decent race as well. Lots to go on, lots of pit stops, lots of action, some good passing, particularly between Ralf Schumacher and Mark Webber. Lots of action, but at the end of it all, the result many expected, but not necessarily the way they expected it to come. Michael Schumacher wins in Malaysia, but Juan Montoya really gave him a run for his money this afternoon. And there is Jenson Button from Frome in Somerset. He joins the elite group to stand on a podium where you, Martin, have stood yourself many times in your Grand Prix career. Tell us what it feels like to be Jenson Button now, your first podium in Formula One.
Yeah, I stood up there 10 times, but the first is the most important. For me, it was the podium used to be a much smaller event back in those days than it is now. It's such a glorious moment, but whenever you're in the top 3, of an international world-class motor race, it is something very significant. The void between 4th and 3rd is just another planet, and he'll be so delighted, and it's well deserved too, I would say. He deserved that long before now, actually. He's been so unlucky not to be up on the podium before now.
That's podium number 124 for the magnificent Michael Schumacher, committed drive from Montoya. First time up top for Jenson Button, a huge achievement for him and BAR. We'll be back to enjoy Jenson's celebrations and the views of Tony Jardine. You're back with us at Sepang near Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where Michael Schumacher won the Malaysian Grand Prix. 100% record so far for Michael Schumacher in his Ferrari following that runaway victory in Melbourne. Montoya in second place for Williams. Jenson Button third for BAR. Barrichello in the second Ferrari. Trulli fifth in the Renault. David Coulthard the only scorer for McLaren today. Then Alonso in the second Renault. It's a home race for Sauber, their sponsors based here. Felipe Massa makes a point. Drivers' Championship, 20 out of 20 for Michael Schumacher. Barrichello in second place. Montoya, the only other driver in double figures. Button, fourth on 9. Alonso close behind on 8. Then Trulli. Ralf Schumacher, 5 for Williams. David Coulthard, 4 for McLaren. Kimi Räikkönen, a notable absentee. Ferrari running away with the constructors after 2 races. 33 points. Then Williams, Renault, BAR on 9, McLaren and Sauber. OK, let's hear from Jenson Button.
Congratulations, Jenson. Your first visit to the podium. Having seen your celebrations with the team just now, I'm wondering what it's going to be like when you get a win.
I know. Well, this really is a win for us at the moment. You know, it's we've made such a good step forward over the winter, and to get a third, and to get a third where we're very competitive, it's a great feeling. You know, there were so many of the top team drivers that were still there at the end, so it's a great feeling. There's just 20 seconds to gain really over a race distance. You know, Michael finished quite a way in front.
Is this going to raise the team's expectations and yours as well?
We expected these results at the start of the season, looking at the testing and how much work we put in over the winter. But it's now it's actually happened. It's a great feeling.
You've come so close to the podium on several occasions and always been thwarted. Now you've finally got there. Does it feel like a weight off your shoulders?
Not at all. You know, I'm not thinking about that at the moment. All I'm thinking about is having a great time with all the mechanics, because they've worked so hard for this, and it's great to see them all so happy, and yeah, we deserve this.
It's very useful for us, particularly to get first step on the podium, first trip to the podium after sort of rebuilding the team over the last 2 years, and it's a step-by-step progress. It's a progression we must work on, and this is a very, very good stage to do this on the second round of the year. You're happy for Jenson, I think?
Yeah, very happy. You know, we get along very well off track, and obviously he's a hard racer on track, as I would be. He's been a little bit quicker in the first 2 races, and it's been close to getting a podium for quite a while now, so I think it's a great day for him, and John and the rest of the family. Simone back in Monaco, probably watching it in the Columbus. So yeah, great day for him, very happy, and I look forward to joining him in a little celebration drink from his bottle of champagne.
What kind of feeling does this give you for the rest of the season?
It gives me a comfortable feeling, but nevertheless a feeling of concern for the rest of the season, because what we are doing, our competitors can do, and a season is long. With this sort of points difference, you always can have a retirement. I mean, the season is too long to feel too confident.
How do you feel about Rubens's involvement in your race?
Well, it's a shame, you know, it's a shame because I came out of turn 2, I had a bit of a run on him, and straight away he closed the door. And you know, he's stopped behind. He was probably 30, 40 seconds behind me, but I can't, you know, when he was going to stop. So he didn't need to do that, but, you know, that's the way Ferrari plays, and you can't change that.
Tony, let's go right back to the start of the Malaysian Grand Prix. Mark Webber fails to get away, but he battles back, and Alonso, like absolute lightning from the back of the grid in the Renault.
2 very aggressive starts, particularly from Webber. Once he'd recovered this clutch drag problem, they lost 2 gears in Australia. He slow started there, but look at Trulli up on the right, pushing Coulthard up onto the grass. He then tagged Button as well, and he was sent up to the tower to see Charlie Whiting after the race for a bit of a telling off. But Mark Webber recovered extremely well. But look at this, Alonso from the back row after his spin in qualifying, put him to the back. He changed the engine as well. We said he'd have to go past at least 5 cars to get through into the points. He did 7, just alongside Massa. Aggression, look at that from Webber. Rockets past and squeezes him as well. And on the next lap, Alonso and Webber are at it for 8th place, nearly putting each other into the pit wall. And there is Fernando just going past into turn 1 and taking the place from Webber.
It was magnificent stuff, particularly at the start there, wasn't it? And when the race developed, Ralph and Mark Webber came together, and it probably ultimately cost them both.
Yeah, I think, you know, Mark was very aggressive, but it was controlled aggression, and there he got a push in the back there from Schumacher, and the resultant puncture there, it's very sharp, that front wing, and if you get the end plate there, it just tags the tyre, put a little hole in it, and that's it. And Mark was struggling with rear tyres as well. Big broadside slide, turn 15, off and out of the race, but he'd made his mark on the event. He drove beautifully in qualifying, and during the race, the short time he had in the race, he was very, very good. They've had problems with the rear tyres and making them work all last year. They've still got a problem here.
Yeah, we don't often see BMW Williams blowing up, but do we, Tony? And Kimi Räikkönen yet to finish a Grand Prix. The winner here last year.
No, but here's the Ralf Schumacher and his engine going up. Now, this engine was the first that was out of the new 2004 engines, and it blew up. They unrestricted laps, whereas I believe that the weakest element of the package, the McLaren package, is the Mercedes engine. It's reputedly down on power. Now, Kimi's very upset. He's in his own world here thinking, what happened? This Marshall almost pushes him in the back. Why did he do that?
Bit of red mist from the Iceman.
Dear, oh dear. No.
We give Michael Schumacher a normal big tick as always, but Jenson Button, what a big, big day for him here. Marvellous for him, marvellous for BAR. Thank goodness we don't have to see Jenson Button going for his first podium anymore.
No, and look at this, because he was overtaking, he was having great dice throughout the event with Jarno Trulli. He comes out of his his first pit stop, and there was Trulli, and they went wheel to wheel. He lost the place, he got it back, he gets onto the podium for the first time. There's David Richards, the team principal, and how apt that it's here, a place where he's been denied twice. The last time was the suspension was collapsing, and then he slowed last year, and the Ferraris gobbled him up in the last few laps of the event. So this is very fitting. He has made it, and Bernie Ecclestone told David Richards not to sign Jenson Button. He said it'd be a bad signing. David Richards said, no, I believe in the guy, and that's the result. You put the team behind him and put all that pressure behind him. He's doing a fantastic job.
Just finally sum it up, Tony, what that will do for Jenson Button and his career.
Well, it literally breaks the ice. It's a breakthrough. It's up onto that podium. It means that you've got the stamp of approval from all the big guys. You're up there with the gods, and it means that you, in the next race, you feel that bit more confident. And the team with the work, it'll be far more coherent, and he'll go on from here. And there should be some more podiums, hopefully, this year.
Thank you, Tony. We go on from here, and it really is exciting as well. I'm really looking forward to the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix in Bahrain. Qualifying live on the Saturday, and we are live on race day. Our coverage starting at 11:40 Sunday morning. The race is off at 12:30. Highlights around midnight. This has been a real breakthrough here for Jenson Button, but it's Michael Schumacher and Ferrari very much in charge as we head for the Gulf. Good night.